and the will to win can take you to some pretty strange places, from county fairgrounds to awesome indoor stadiums, tracks made from some of the best salvage yard scrap iron to 16 inches of mud. It's a journey best made with a heavy right foot. Sometimes you end up in victory lane, sometimes you end up on your hat. But after the dust is settled and the driver walks away, that wild ride that lasted mere seconds will be relived over and over again, etched in the racer's head like some bad song that won't go away. And that's what the fourth installment of Diamond P's most popular monster truck and mud racing series is all about. It's a collection of those great hits we call Shake, Battle, and Roll. The Predator of Alan Pizzo showed up at Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. As you well know, that's the mecca of monster trucks for 1 week in a year. Trying to get his truck in this 12-truck field, literally putting it on kill. And the end result, rear suspension collapses on the second impact. Now, Pizzo under the gun now, as he knows he will have an opportunity to qualify later in the day, but as you can see, a lot of damage was sustained to this vehicle in the right rear suspension. The big story at Bloomsburg were the angle of the ramps. The drivers didn't like them. They said they're going to cause a lot of problem before the day's over. And Pizzo was proof of the pudding right there. He knew he had a long drive ahead of him to get this thing back into the action. He takes it back to the pit area, but sure enough, after literally hammering and nailing, he made it to the line the very next day against Paul Schaefer. And as you can see, he had a good run going for him. He moved on Schaefer first. He was out on him. But once again, the right Paul, in this case, the right rear suspension, cost him. Pizzo very dejectedly comes out of the truck. The replay comes up on the screen, and as you can see, the Predator literally had Schaefer covered. Horsepower was not a problem, but on this day in Bloomsburg, Lady Luck was looking the other way from the Predator. Alan, I know you and keep working. I know you and the crew are just upset as can be over this, but the same thing happened yesterday in qualifying. Can you tell me what's causing it to do this?
I'm not sure, Army, right now. I think I may have one shock that lost a valving or something in the shock, and it's not releasing when it's going in the air, and the truck is bottoming out when it's landing, and putting a tremendous load on the spindle and breaking it off.
Well, then we move to the granddaddy of them all, the Fall Jamboree in Indianapolis, Indiana, and literally everybody wanted to make this show. Qualifying is so important. We've already seen the carnage that can take place when a truck lands hard on the rear. Well, Donnie Van Loo with his Dodge team showing you it's just as tough to get qualified with a front knuckle missing. And the tire just rolled away. Now, you got to remember, those tires weigh 800 pounds apiece, and that much reciprocating weight, you well know, is going to take a long time to stop. Van Loo gets out, waves to the crowd. They're into this. This is what monster truck racing's all about. The big question, who's going to go get the tire? We see the front end loader heading that way. Van Loo's going to try to get back in the session. The slippery track caused a whole lot of the problem today. It looks like Van Loo getting a lot of wheel speed over the first jump. Then he settles down. Now, remember, we talk about balance in this sport. This truck was nose heavy. And that's what caused it to break. Donnie, what happened? It looks like something just completely cleanly broke off the front left spindle.
Yeah, the front knuckle come loose on it. I don't know why, but I guess them things happen sometimes. At least the truck's still in one piece. I'm not hurt, so everything's fine dandy. You know, we can always come back.
Qualifying, man, that is getting to be a tough thing to do for these Jamboree shows.
Very, very hard thing to do. I mean, everybody's getting their act together and makes a heck of a difference.
Thanks a lot. We're glad you're okay.
All right, thank you.
Well, Van Leeuwen and his crew were able to get it back together. They carry the spare knuckles with them, and knuckle is the left front suspension. You can see there it's completely gone, but these guys know that monster trucks have to have knuckles, so hey, you got 5 on each hand. They carry some spares with them. The Fall Jamboree, Indianapolis once again, not having problems with the tires this time. Sampson of Dan Patrick comes out. Keep an eye on the front end. You talk about flexing your muscle. He actually breaks the front suspension of the truck, tears the front end off of it, but he is okay. So as the crew literally strong-arms the front end of the truck, the next day I had a chance to catch up with Dan. You're looking at pieces of Dan Patrick's broken truck. Dan, what happened in that qualifying session?
Well, when the truck landed on the second jump, I think basically what happened was we sheared the flange off, and which let the wheel come back, locked it up, which tore all the other parts up. But what happened here, we think it's from a long, hard summer. At Lima, we maybe hit the cars real hard in no man's land, kind of jammed the front end up there. Then also in Bloomsburg, when we made those hard landings on that second jump there, we noticed that, well, we bent the housing there, but we couldn't tell that there was any fractures from the outside.
How can you tell now?
Well, by looking at discolorations in the material where the brakes are, this is what actually was holding it yesterday. The rest of the stuff had broken, but you couldn't see it visually. So it's just a long time coming this summer after hitting all those hits and just taking it here. This wasn't a hard landing. It really shouldn't have happened.
Well, you know, sometimes it's not a case of losing things, but finding yourself running into things, like fences. Pam Botter in the boogie van at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds found out what the stern fence was like on the left side of her vehicle. Tag. Now, a couple of days later, in the very same lane, Ray Prokowski comes out and tags the same wall that Pam did. But if you look between the rear tires, you'll see why. He broke a rear suspension lever on the 4-link bar back there, and that's what caused it to hook to the left. Now, you must remember the monster truck courses are temporary courses built around fairgrounds, so you never know where the fences are going to be, or in that case, the power poles or any type of obstruction. So all the drivers have to stay on their toes, almost like obstacle drivers. Now, speaking of obstacle drivers, let's go back to Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Watch Gary Porter in a far lane. We've seen guys going through fences. We talked about obstacles. Keep an eye on this. I'd like to introduce you to the JoJo barrier, a safety barrier designed right here in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, and believe me, Gary Porter road tested that rascal for you. Gary, what do you have any idea what caused it to go like that?
Well, Army, you know, I knew I had to launch the truck really hard off the light, you know, to take Bigfoot out, and you know, that's what I was doing. I was trying to go for it all. It hooked up really hard on the line. When I landed over the first set of cars, it felt sort of like a rear axle shaft broke or something. That's what made the truck turn. And, you know, when I felt it turn as bad as it did, I knew there was no use trying to get it back. You know, I just slammed on the brakes. I seen the pole coming up, you know, and I tried to turn away from it. And it hit pretty hard. It surprised me how hard those water barriers are.
Well, Gary definitely road tested those 1,200-pound water barriers, but they were put in front of that pole to protect it. That's exactly what they did. Who cleans up a mess like this? Well, when it's all over, the crew. That's who. Canfield, Ohio always provides us with a ton of excitement. The reason is the left lane and the right lane have two completely different personalities. Mark Hall, the executioner, is going to come up and show you just a taste of what was to be coming up a little bit later in the action. The left lane, they've got poles and JoJo barriers. The right lane, you got to negotiate a 4-foot drop-off. So the drivers have a tendency to overcompensate. They have a tendency to oversteer the vehicles. The optimum word here is over. This qualifying session before the night was over provided two of the most action-packed runs we had seen in our involvement in the sport. The Hall brothers were the lucky ones. Ken Deppy with the Hemi-powered Rampage rolled to the starting line right after Hall in the same lane. Remember, we keep talking about balance in a monster truck. I want you to notice the nose attitude of this vehicle. In the second set of cars, the second car's missing. That's exactly where the front end landed. Deppy on the throttle. He knows full well if you can keep one part of that truck on the ground, you can keep it upright, and he does. The crowd goes wild, and he kept it upright. Or as upright as could be. This was potentially a very dangerous situation. You can see the wheels up attitude of the awesome Dodge. He noses over. Now at this time, the driver knows he's in trouble. The safety crew knows he's in trouble. There's an electronic kill switch aboard these monster trucks. The question is, when will they activate it? Or has it already been activated? The driver is still on the throttle. You can see the tires turning. Rule of thumb, if you can keep one on the ground, you can pull it around. That's exactly what Deppy did. Crew members lifting the 800-pound tire. I had a chance to talk to Deppy right after the run. The question right now is the kill switch.
Army, you know, the radio was on. I got crooked off of there and, you know, going up on its nose, and I was just trying to bring the truck around, and actually I had my foot to the floor. When I finally got stopped over here, I was going to turn my front wheels, try to get them straight, because I could tell I had them turned. And then it died, and I looked up, and the motor, you know, the radio was flashing. So I figured they'd waited to kill me till I got down here, and they said that they'd been trying sooner. I don't know, Army.
Well, the reverse angle shows you that provided a lot of action, kind of like a three-ring circus. The big question is, if the light was blinking, the safety kill system should have been activated. And you can see the tires were still spinning at this point. It literally ripped the side of the truck out. That wasn't all, though. Before the night was over, Mr. Brian Welch, a privateer in a moving violation Chevrolet, rolled out. This young kid's trying to make a name for himself on the circuit. It's got him a new sponsor, but he is in the right lane at Canfield. We told you each lane had a personality. This lane has a nasty personality. Well, immediately the track crew approaches the vehicle. You can see Brian Welch sitting inside. Operations Director George Carpenter goes over, and folks, he doesn't use the jaws of life. He uses the cowboy boot of life. Bottom line, he got the top of the truck off, and they're going to get Brian out. You can see the young man climbing around. The safety and roll cage, everything held up on the truck like it was supposed to, because this truck is built to the MTRA specs. He acknowledges the crowd. We had a chance to talk to him. First of all, are you okay? I'll be real honest, sir. The bell's been rung pretty good, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what, yeah, a little bit, but tell you what, that's what a roll cage is supposed to do. We went up around, I seen the ground a couple times. Everything was good. The truck seemed to hold together good. I don't know what happened back there. We come up the second ramp, back in, tried to pass the front end up for some reason. We got the new KB motor in here from Van Sims. I'll tell you what, it's putting the power out.
He's going to be okay, but just like he said, he brought out an important point. The roll cage did work. All the safety devices did what they were supposed to do. Now, I've spent a lot of time on the far end of racetracks and seen a lot of accidents, but believe me, these two coming back-to-back proved one thing to me. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. racers, where not only the full-bodied, but the open-bodied drivers know they're going to get their share of mud before the day's over. But so does the camera crew. The Spring National Jamborees at Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio. Some of the racers call it the track that's too tough to tame. Shane Ballard in the near lane of the Pork Brothers Express will be going up against the Jeffersonville, Kentucky school teacher, Stanley Trimble. Trimble takes the win, but it cost him not in the pit, but in the shutdown area. And it slow rolled when it came out of the pit. Meanwhile, the safety crew on hand, along with Shane Ballard, runs over. You can see the other driver getting to him. The teach is okay, but he will be staying after school to put it back together.
Yeah. You want to flip her? Can we flip her?
Well, I tell you what, for a school teacher, I'm glad you don't teach driver ed. Are you okay?
I'm in fine shape. It's easy rollover. It got a little left. I knew it was left, and I should have let it roll, but I got on the brakes a little more than I should.
What exactly caused it?
I hooked a little rut right in the middle, and it came hard to the, well, really to the right. Left from where we're at here, but it came hard to the right, felt like. And when I come through the lights, you can see my tracks, they just came out here, and I got on the binders too hard, and should let it roll out. They had plenty of room. Inexperienced, not enough.
No, we're glad you're okay.
Thank you.
Now, the very same race, just a few passes later, Tony Farrell and the Blue Ribbon Bandit came out. This time, Tony's in the right lane in an open body car. Now, you might recall, in Shake Battle in roll 3, Tony's the one that literally blew the tires off. But today, he just rolls it for you. Guys always got to show up. Well, Gary, as you can see, the safety crews were Johnny on the spot. They talked to the driver. He said, I'm okay. George Carpenter and the crew decided just to immediately go ahead and right the vehicle back up. Ironically, on the back of the car, it says this end up. He didn't follow his own directions here. Real quick, you gonna be okay?
Oh yeah, we'll go back, work on her, get ready for tomorrow.
What caused it to let go like that?
Well, I started getting a little sideways. I knew I was got road track. Started to stab it and pull myself out of it, and it just didn't work.
We'll let you go see the EMTs. I'm glad you're all right.
Thanks.
What Tony means when he's talking about burping or hitting the throttle, if you can break the tires loose out of the mud, it'll spin the vehicle out. In this case, the tires did not break loose. They bit. Couldn't keep that side up. Now, a very similar looking incident, this in the paddle tire class, Shane Back in the far lane had his share of problems again in the shutdown area. Back made a move and burped the throttle right before the finish line. That planted the vehicle. Then he came out into the soft stuff trying to hit that throttle again. It wasn't to work for him. Came back moving around in the pit. I had a chance to talk to him. Another day at the office here. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just got a little swirly out there, and I'm trying to go for that record. You know how it is.
What about the starting line? They worked the starting line, softened it up a little bit. Did you get a good bite on the starting line?
Yeah, I feel like we had a good bite on the start line. The car seemed to work pretty well. I noticed when I pulled up the line, I had a little bit of a fuel leak, but we went right on for it.
I'm glad to see you're okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I can't imagine sitting in one of these vehicles knowing you had a fuel leak, but then again, that's what it's all about. It's a short ride, but it's a thrill ride. Beating the odds. The name of the vehicle that comes out is owned by Rob Marshall. The big question this year was, can he beat the odds? Because Mother Nature now, in another year in time, has muddied down the shutdown area. We've seen what the dry shutdown area do. Let's see what happens with the mud monster on the other end. The results, my friends, are the same. Drivers hitting the throttle, trying to plant the vehicle. They just weren't going to work for them. The body's blown off, so you can see the driver climbing out. He is okay. All the safety equipment works. Hey, just another day at the office in Allen County, Ohio. Replay comes up on the screen. You can see the driver in the lane closest to us making a good move, but notice the wheels up attitude in the far lane. He is really making some horsepower. Now the vehicle starts to slide, a slow slide to the left. Near the JoJo barriers. The driver's not on the throttle. He'll hit the throttle late. Now he hits the throttle, but the body's gone, and he is on his head. So Rob Marshall, proven beyond a doubt, you cannot fly a 23 Ford in the Buckeye State. Let me work my way over to the driver real quick. First of all, are you okay physically?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Why don't you go ahead and start taking your helmet off, let the EMTs get with you. He's checking the damage on the vehicle. The chassis is twisted, it's bent. but the roll cage did hold up and protect the driver. But again, I want you to notice just exactly how muddy it is. We'll get them to pan the camera straight down. I'll show you. That's what they're trying to stop in right there. And that's causing some of the problems out here today. Well, the Allen County Fairground, known for some of the best AMA flat track motorcycle racing, that'll take place on the track. Right now, we're on the infield, and I tell you what, the infield, if you had a song, could be called Dead Man's Curve. Al East comes out of Pennsylvania with the Beef T Blue vehicle and took an awesome ride. Keep an eye on him, hook it to the right. Once he makes his move, three-quarter track goes over the berm. Now he's on the throttle trying to get it back on the ground. It didn't work. No. It rolls back right side up. Al was okay, but showing that once you hook a rut in this Class 6 competition, those big scooper tires, the vehicle basically has a mind all its own. It was not a slow roll. The driver was on the throttle. As you can see Al climbing out now, the driver was on the throttle trying to get it back on the ground. It just wasn't to be. Boy, these people from Ohio get to see all kinds of great racing. Let's look at the replay again. A good run till about three-quarters of a track. Now he's in trouble and hooks on him, and he is along for the ride. And at this point, he nails the throttle, trying to get it to settle down, but it's not going to happen. The bite is there with those big scooper tires, and Al goes on his head. Another Buckeye Bandit.
Well, now it's going to become a convertible.
Al, how's that make you feel seeing all that work go? I know you're cutting up and everything, but right now I got to be honest, I think you're kind of in shock. How does it feel seeing that thing go away like that? A lot of work there, and it's just going down the tubes.
Well, it's going to be a lot of work the next 2 weeks here. I hope I can get together and have the funds and the help to get it back together. I think we can do it. You put your mind to anything, you can do it.
Well, if you put your mind to the wildest ride that I've ever seen, the most violent wreck that I've ever seen in the sport took place in Lima that very same day. Tom Martin in the near lane pulled up against Rodney Covington in the far lane. Two heavy hitters in the sport going nose to nose. Covington pulled the feet out of the water. Now he's in trouble. Covington's arms flailing around inside the vehicle. The driver's okay. Now watch his left hand. Starts to fall down on him. Getting your bell rung. That's a perfect example of it. Keep an eye on the right side of your screen. It's a good heads-up run. This is what the sport's all about. Both vehicles a little bit out of shape. Martin exits to the left of the screen. Covington tried the same thing. Now he's got a gas and go. But keep an eye on his right hand. Can you see the arm coming out? The safety restraints pulling that hand back in and keeping him from getting it caught in the roll cage. That's one lucky guy. Well, Rodney was indeed transported to a hospital. They said he was going to be okay. That's more than we can say for the vehicle. As you can see, completely demolished. The big question was, would we see him again? And lo and behold, a year later, look who showed up in the pit area. This time with a big picture of Curly, or was that Mo or Larry on the back of the helmet? He retained his sense of humor, and he was ready to go racing. You know, in racing, you never know what's going to happen. For an example, David Whitehurst comes out in the 48 Fiat, the first vehicle, stops and then backs into Dan Richter. Man, you talk about lack of respect for your fellow competitors. Look what happened here. He didn't just back into him. Now he's going to throw a little mud on him. That's adding insult to injury. But that's mud racing. Well, those are certainly some of the neat things about a jamboree, a four-wheel drive jamboree. You know, the monster drags, the rally, it's all about trucks. Beautiful pieces found in the show and shine area. All the craftsmanship, the pride, the ownership, the chrome, the candy apples. But nothing turns on a crowd any more than seeing some good old Detroit iron getting demolished. Ladies and gentlemen, Megasaurus. But you know, at the jamborees, the Megasaurus is not the only creature that will devour some Detroit iron. I'm talking about the tough truck drivers. Anyone you can walk away from's a good one. Speaking of walking, look who was walking the dog at Canfield. Mark Rentz skies out his Ford Bronco. Tough truck competition went over to Missouri. Keep an eye on Bruce the Moose Scott. There's a fence right there. Scott found it, but decided to go on. It's still running. Let's go. The crowd screaming. But the very next year, in a different vehicle, Bruce the Moose is back in town. You got to remember, these vehicles must be street legal, and they run an obstacle course, so running against time is what it's all about. Now, earlier we saw Bruce put his short wheelbase Jeep into a fence. He and his family got together, decided the Jeep Scout that they're looking at right here, the International Scout, is a better vehicle suited specifically for this sport, and they knew it would work. Well, they thought it would work. Well, at this point in time, there's no doubt about it. For the second year in a row, the Moose was loose. He acknowledges the crowd, and we had a chance to work our way over and visit with this big guy. Now, we call him the Moose Man in this part of the country, and as you can see, he's also known as Mr. Excitement. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just fine. Continuing with the tradition.
Well, I tell you what, we appreciate you and the club. You're a member of the host club here and everything. And you guys do a tremendous job, and I'm really glad you're okay. I know you take it serious, but we kind of worry about you guys sometimes. We're glad to see you doing okay.
Yeah, it's more fun than it is anything, but we like to put on a show for the crowd, and it helps to get on TV every once in a while. Thank you, Army.
Well, that's a heck of a way to get on TV. Well, let's go over to Lima, Ohio to prove one thing. Dave Fontanetta comes out with a short wheelbase Jeep. Now, remember, the Moose Man was in this type of vehicle last year. The only constant we have between these two drivers is it seems to be to your advantage to be on the fluffy side of the weight bracket. Keep an eye on Fontanetta as he makes a shot, setting up an awesome vibration that will eventually catch up with him. What'd I say? Well, he'll start to work his way out of the vehicle. You can see him moving around in there right now. Weight's working against him a little bit because we undid the seatbelt. He fell on his head. You guys are supposed to be doing this for fun.
It was fun. It was fun until I saw the ground coming up, and I said, uh-oh, yeehaw!
Well, that's what it says on the front of your shirt. What about reaching out with your hand? You had me scared there. I thought you may have lost some fingers.
No, I thought about it. My roll cage is up. I wanted to make sure I was up here so my face didn't come down. More to the steering wheel in case I came backwards.
Well, we'll let you get over with the EMT. They want to check you out. We're glad you're okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, things are always a little wild and woolly when we hit the RCA Dome. Check these ATV riders out. Your girlfriend, what? No, hey, that's it. You guys, let's go racing. That's what it's all about. Speaking of motorcycles, they tried to set a world record so you could jump the highest in the land. They forgot to tell a guy one thing. Jump is one thing. You got to be on a motorcycle when you land. Don't get any style points for a landing like this. Well, tough truck drivers, they don't get style points either. The one closest to you, we talked to him a moment ago, that's Dave Fontanella. He knows he'd get on his head, but the big story was Kent Dickerson when he hits the finish line tire. Remember, the tire is the finish. Dickerson do the head dance into dome. Well, the short wheelbase Jeep, this time being driven by Barb All. Now, she and her husband follow the circuit. They own a company that actually puts on pig roast around the country. Barb in the semifinals comes up, and you got to remember the finish line is who hits the tire first. She's there, but she goes on her head. Very wisely, she sits patiently in the vehicle. The three guys seem to love it. The fellas go out and get her back up on her feet, and the fans go wild. How did the flip feel? You had everybody kind of pumped up out there.
You know, it was so smooth when it went over, I didn't even realize it at first. I was a little shaky afterwards, but it wasn't too bad.
Barb All may be a champion, but the toughest tough trucker of them all is a guy named Jan Kligner, the Whale. It's a Jeepster vehicle. He calls it the family truckster, if you will. But he can work a crowd better than any Dallas Cowboy cheerleader you've seen. What I say. He's still going. The wind is gone. The right front spindle's broke. Here comes Jan the man trying to get over where he can get up and get on top of it and get the crowd going. That's why he's the best. John Force, eat your heart out. We got one, too. The suspension completely collapses. The window pops out. Kligner doing his thing in the Kligner style, and the crowd in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania is loving it. At this point in time, everybody has thought they'd seen the last of the Blue Goose. That's not the case. He searched all year long, found another one just like it, this one the Woody version. And again, Kligner will be the crowd favorite on style points alone. Sometimes you got to wonder about these guys. They've got the big heart. They've got the right foot. But will they ever have an opportunity to drive the 10-foot-tall brethren? Equally as tough on their equipment on a track that's only 300 feet long and 30 feet wide, but can produce awesome amounts of horsepower, up to 40,000 pounds. The tractor pullers give it all. mud at the infamous Bloomsburg Fairground as Peter Gallus was writing the story in the Thunderbolt. The story being, what's the track going to be like? He looked down the track, picked out 2 grooves, went up on the throttle, and the rest of the field was watching him as he finished his run and hooked a rut on the big end. Immediately, the safety crew spring into action. Gallus was okay. He undoes the safety equipment, but the firemen are right on the scene as we had a little bit of an alcohol leak, and they start to water it down. This would not be the last time we saw the EMTs at Bloomsburg on this memorable day. First of all, you okay?
Oh, I'm fine.
Do you have any idea what happened?
Kind of got up on the bank there, and once you get up on the bank, you're pretty much done.
What's the track like out there? All these guys in the back of the lineup are really kind of spooky over it. Now that you've gone over, they're really getting nervous.
It's going to be faster. Definitely going to get a lot faster. We'll see in a couple more cars what happens.
Okay, we'll let you get back to your career. Thanks for stopping over. Sure. You notice during that whole interview, he was rubbing his eye. That guy took a lick on the eye. Well, a couple of races later, he said, we'll tell the story. Keep an eye on Hot Tuna in the Dirty Bird round. Hot Tuna comes out. Tag. The vehicles that the monster truck used in their competition are stored to the left side of that track. He came out, hooked a rut to the left. You're going to see exactly what happened. He had a good run going, but right at the end of the track, I had a tendency to pull him just a little bit to the left. And this is where 2 forces met, and he lost. The 48 Fiat, a lot of damage, but the driver was okay. Well, we've proven the left lane in Bloomsburg can bite you. As the EMTs go over to check the hand-eye coordination of the driver, they're keeping him suited up and everything ready to go. We can't say enough about these people, how quick they arrive at the scene. So, the tempo is set. The left lane is bad. What happens now? Brian Belunda comes out in the right lane. It's 27 Ford Roadster that goes by the name of the Boss. He'll be going against the Mud Hen. Remember, the right lane has the infamous Bloomsburg wall at the end. You don't know what it looks like? There it is. Brian goes head on into it. The vehicle completely demolishing the front end as Brian, stopped with the JoJo Berries, very dejectedly gets out of the vehicle, waves to the crowd. And ladies and gentlemen, when you come to Bloomsburg, this is the type of carnage you see. It's amazing how hard these guys run. A good run for Brian. He's got good visibility. But when he comes out of the pit, the vehicle makes a little bit of a move to the right. And really, we do not see him turn into it. He's on the brakes now, but the wheels are not turned. See, they're going straight into the barriers. Well, a tough break for the gentleman who wanted to make a good showing on national television. He goes away under the hook. And like I say, when you talk about a front clip gone, that is proof of it. It wasn't over. With a brand new sponsor out of Whittier, California, the Blower Dry Service, Dan Brown comes out. But he's going back in that left lane. Remember the lane over there where all the cars were a moment ago? They caught the Hot Tuna? Watch Brown. Same scenario. The body ripped away. Brown is okay. But that mud racer is literally disintegrated, ladies and gentlemen. As you look right down the barrel, look at those tires. You got to remember they weigh about 80 pounds apiece. They'll go immediately to 160 mile an hour with that much reciprocating weight. You got a 4-corner offense, and every corner wants to go in a different direction. This is the end result. Completely demolished vehicle. The driver's okay. Can't say the same for the vehicle. They pulled the vehicle over to the infield right after that. Brown was taking inventory of what he could save and what was going to have to go away. Dan, real quick, what goes through your mind right now? You've had a chance, you had your bell rung, you've had a chance to regroup and everything. This has got to make you sick to see this.
Yeah, Army, I tell you, we just, you work so hard to get a car put together, and you come out in a split second, it's history, But there's something out there causing them guys to hook hard to the left and right, and I thought I was clear of it, but when it come over that bank, it was just Katie bar the door. And we got parts. We'll try fixing her tonight and see what we got in the morning.
I'll tell you what, if you can get this thing going within a week, you're doing good. I'm glad you're okay. You really had us scared.
Well, thanks, Army.
To me, a week is 7 days. To these guys, nah, it's just 24 hours. As a matter of fact, it's called an all-nighter, and all the racers have done it at one time or another. Had to completely rebuild literally from ground up, and that's what you're looking at here. What the crews did, they put a list on the wall. Anybody that gave him a piece to get the car going just wrote the piece down on the list. Some of the crews went to the bottom and fixed the bottom end of the vehicle. Brown himself watched diligently as it came to life. And he was ready to go to the line. Everything went back on the car, as a matter of fact, with the exception of the body. But when he rolled to the line, believe me, all the other drivers were kind of grinning because they knew they had done something good to help their buddy. Ironically, the only thing they didn't fix on this vehicle was the steering wheel. And as soon as it comes off the line, believe it or not, that's what let go. But Brown's tickled to death. He's going to be able to come back and race another time, another day, with a little help from his friends. Now, we're going to show you some runs from one of the other guys, Tom Marsh, who really should be in the Shake, Battle, and Roll Hall of Fame. A couple of the runs you're going to be seeing is Class 5 and Class 6 competition, and Marsh always seems to have his hand on the pulse of where the action is. Comes out of the pit, gets over the lane in front of the driver in front of him, but very cautiously extends that 300-foot pit to about a quarter of a mile length. Then he pulled up against his old buddy, Chad Miller, in a 27 Ford Roadster. This is in the paddle tire class now. Again, in Lima, Ohio. Watch what happens. Never lacking for action. Marsh wipes out the clocks. But his reputation finally caught up with him at the Fall Nationals in 1994 in Indianapolis. He comes out of the pit after a very good run, but the biggest fear a driver has is the throttle hanging. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what it looks like. Big time. Mendoza at the end of the track literally blew the tires off the vehicle. You could hear him winging the throttle. He indicates to the safety crew that yes, he is indeed okay. Another one walks away, but a little bit slower this time. And you notice when he stepped on the tire that stayed on the vehicle, it was completely blown out. So he blew one off and blew one out.
I'll turn you off right there.
Tom, go ahead and take your helmet off, but I'll tell you right now, you did the only thing you can do. We were standing down at the top end when you came through. Did the throttle stick on you? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I come out and the throttle stuck a little bit, but it wasn't near as bad as it should have been. I got back in it to try to bring it around, and from that time on, I was just fighting it. And I was just trying to get in an open area and trying to get it under control, and I just run out of room, and
It looked to me like you were trying to actually come up on the throttle and spin the car around to make it stop. And then we had one tire that just grew tremendously, and that's what turned you over.
Yeah, I think that tire popped off is what finally made it catch. I just ran out of room. It just happened too quick, you know.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Well, get over here and talk to the fire department guys and the EMTs. They want to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks, Army.
You know, your mother always told you never to play in the mud. This is exactly why. This mud pit's only 200 feet long by 30 feet wide, but believe me, it'll cause harm to your body before the day's over. Speaking of mud, hey, let's look at some highlights. Here's Mud in Your Eye. action continues. We've seen our share of disasters. How about near misses? Like this nice bit of driving done by Donnie Van Loo in the Magnum Force while he was qualifying for the RCA Dome competition. Heads up driving. Then you got old Colt Cobra. Did a nice wheel stand on this qualifying shot at Lima, Ohio. Driver having his hands full though, trying to get it woed. It won't stop till you get all four on the ground, Colt. But the old snake had his hands full against Kurt Dabney, one of the strongest independents on the circuit in a vehicle that goes by the name of Overkill. This is exactly what I mean. Something's got to be touching before gravity will stop a moving vehicle. It's as simple as that. Colt gives us the Fang sign. He's okay. Cameraman had a good shot of it. But we're going to show you one more time what these two guys can do when they line up head-to-head. Neither one of them was going to blink. Cobra had his chassis set up loose on the right of your screen. He noses in now. Dabney lands a little bit square. Colt Cobra noses. Now he is in trouble. Remember, one of those big 4 tires must be touching the ground. He can't get them on the ground, thus he can't apply the brakes. The driver literally has his hand full, similar to a fighter pilot trying to land a crippled aircraft. But finally, he does have all 4 corners touching, applies the brake, and it looks like he's going to get it woed just in time. Some heads-up driving by the Colt Cobra out of Colorado. The driver's out of the truck. He's okay. Jim Kramer's checking the rear suspension of the truck. But we're going to take you around it to show you what's unique down here. At the very end of the track, they had a bunch of poles. Well, the driver, trying to get the truck shut down, actually got into the poles. You notice a lot of axles. First of all, you okay, Cole? Ride, heck of a ride.
Yeah, it was a heck of a ride. We've been having some suspension, not problems, but we've been working on them. We knew we had to race. We had to come out. We had to give it everything we had. And going against somebody like Overkill, you saw the passes he put down earlier today. We knew we couldn't back out of it. I'm fine. All the safety equipment worked flawlessly. As far as we can tell, the truck's not hurt. We're going to be back next round.
Let me ask you a question. We've been watching you on the top end of the track. You are getting your neck wrung every time this truck lands. I mean, your head is really ripping around in there. Does that bother your neck at all?
Snakes don't have necks.
Ooh, I guess he shows me, gives me the old Fang sign. You know, that cockiness, if you will, is what really makes him a crowd favorite. Speaking of crowd favorites, look who's coming out now. Kurt Dabney. Boy, if we could write a book about this guy in Lima, Ohio. 93 completely flipped the truck, demolished it, finished 94 in an upswing. This is the first shot in 1995 on a brand new vehicle. This year for him, they spent the winter rebuilding. Let's see if it worked out for him. Good start. No Man's Land settles down. What does it land like? Oh, he's in trouble. Dabney high sides it at Lima one more time. He has a jinx in the left lane at Lima, Ohio, believe me. Dabney's okay. The safety crew got out there to him. He walks away from the truck just thinking, man, there's a black cloud hanging over me. The big 10,000-pound monster truck rolls back right on his feet. But a lot of work stands in front of these guys.
The truck is controlled by a 4-link suspension system, and the bottom link bars on the rear axle failed. We're not sure what stressed them out. The track's hard, the traction's good, and right now at this point we're trying to decide what it's going to take to repair the truck. We had a lot of ground speed, and it didn't bleed the speed off very quick. You know, the first flip felt like it picked the speed up, and it didn't bleed the speed off till right to the last second.
The replay comes up. I want you to look right in front of the rear wheel. You'll see where the problem comes. When it lands, you'll see a bar drop down. That's the 4-link bar, and that's exactly what the name implies. There's 4 bars holding the rear suspension to the truck. At this point, it takes impact and it breaks. You can see it hanging down. Right now, he is just along for the ride because he has no control whatsoever over this monster. Overkill lands on its lid. The driver's okay, and Dabney trying to turn his luck around. He's not going to do it here. But with a little help from his friends and everybody pitching in to help, we did get a chance to see more of him later on in the year. Now, everybody knows Bigfoot, or do you? Look at the nose on the Bigfoot truck. This was the unveiling of the new F50 body style, F150 body style by Ford. And Eric Meager really laid down a shot. The chassis was loose, but what he really wound up doing was tagging a wall at the RCA Dome. Meager in good shape. The crew goes over, gets a thumb up. He's ready to go. The replay comes up, and I want you to notice how the attitude of the truck is. Truck on the far side stays basically level. Meager is up in the air. The back tires kick it over. Same problem we've had before. If you don't have something touching the ground, you can't stop. At this point in time, all he's trying to do is pick out a soft spot because, believe me, he's going to dot the I in Indianapolis right now. And at that time, his crew sprang into action, knowing if there's any way possible, they wanted to get that truck back into tonight's action. Eric, you have any idea? You did what you had to do. I mean, you had to get it back down before you hit the brakes.
That's right. It came up over top of me. I know I was running low on space here. As you can see, we're indoors. We're still racing hard. Very competitive. Ford's not backing down. We're going to assess the damage. I don't see any real reason why we can't come back, but I really haven't looked at it yet. But we're coming back. Hopefully, we're coming back real strong.
Thanks for coming over. Get back to work.
Thank you.
And coming back strong is exactly what they did. The crew member goes over, assesses the damage to the truck. Looks like the truck's better off than the wall. All the safety systems worked on the truck. The fuel cell stayed intact. All the wells stayed together. The big question was, did Bigfoot make it through the night? Well, he indeed did. As a matter of fact, went to another round of competition before going to the finals against the overkill Ford of Kirk Dabney. And he took the win, ladies and gentlemen, like the Phoenix. He came back one more time. With all the mayhem we've seen, it's easy to overlook some of the great performances by some of the fantastic monster trucks. You know, people call them the sumo wrestlers of the motorsporting world, and not a day goes by they won't fight you at the drop of a hat. Dan Patrick has been in the sport for many years, and on this run, he became the first monster truck to break the 5-second barrier on a 200-foot track. Patrick rolls out and has every Chevrolet person in America grinning from ear to ear because they are a part of history now, the first to go under 5. But that didn't last very long. In the far lane, Andy Brass, the winningest monster truck driver of all time, claimed the record and bumped it to a 491 while he was running against his teammate Dan Runties in the final of the last race of the season in Canfield, Ohio. Meanwhile, the opening event in Lima, Ohio the following year, Runty bumped it to a 484. They've got them flying at 10,000 pounds, but the Dodge boys were not to be outdone. Fred Schaefer bumps that 484 in the second round, national record, to a 471, and in the semifinals bumps it to a 464. Now, all manufacturers can say they shared in the national ET milestone. So as the monster trucks continue to fly, and the also mud racers go quicker and quicker and wilder, and what can we say about this tough truck competition where your neighbor can be a hero? We want to thank everybody that makes it possible. Yeah, the firemen that come to our aid so many times, the EMTs that work diligently with us, the record crews, the track personnel, everybody who's worked so hard to make these events as good as they are. Event personnel, you're to be commended for doing a great job because we know we need these people whenever we're gonna shake, battle, and roll.
What the best